Hey everybody, welcome to Big Balls Fantasy Football, the show with powerful picks, sexy super fans, and that's really fun. I'm your host, Greg Reifsteck, 27-year fantasy veteran.
And I'm your co-host, Jenilee. I've been playing fantasy now for about 12 years, and it's been awesome.
Yes.
And together we are the beauty
and the beast
of fantasy football experts.
It's a new season, everybody. We finally are back with football. Preseason is officially here. We're a few weeks in. That's why we're coming at you finally with a lot of information to help you with your drafts. We had one of our drafts already. We're going to have another draft soon. And, of course, we had our biggest balls of them all draft, which we'll show you on a future show. But we're going to give you our top 5 of every position on 2 shows. The first show that we're giving to you now is going to be quarterbacks and running backs, the top 5 at each position. Also, we are on Facebook and we're on social media, but we have started an app, a brand new app. You want to tell them a little bit about the app?
Yeah, absolutely. The app is amazing. You can download it for free, so you don't have to pay for any of the information. And all of our shows are going to be up every week for you guys. Of course, you're going to get our picks. Greg does his segment, I do mine. So you're going to get a bunch of picks for the whole year every week. And we also have Cash and Pros doing some blogs this year. So they're kind of strategy blogs. And the best part of this that I love about the app is you can send us your lineup questions directly, because we know you guys all play in different leagues. The scoring is different in different kinds of leagues. Maybe you're curious about a player of how they're going to do that week because you're playing in FanDuel or DraftKings, and we can answer those questions for you. And of course, you get to see a bunch of photos and go straight to our website and all that fun stuff. So it's great. Go get it. You can get it on Google Play or, of course, the Apple App Store, and it's free.
And the good thing about, well, the one thing you need to know about the columns is the only way you get Cash and Pros blog is if you have the app. That is exclusive to there. You're not going to get that information. You're not going to get those strategy blogs unless you go there. So that's why you want to go there and definitely get that information on top of our picks. And through the season, Jenilee and I might just do special segments with what we just put on the app. So you want to get it now, so that way when we say it's exclusively on the Big Balls Fantasy Football app, you can just go to it. We, of course, are also on Twitter at BigBallsFBall, and, of course, we're always going to be on Facebook. Unfortunately, the way Facebook is set up now, you post something, it doesn't go to everybody anymore. That's why we set up the app, because we weren't getting to enough of you, and we want to get to all of you. So it's the one-stop shop where you can look at all of our pictures and get all of the information.
Absolutely. And on the app, we send you push notifications as well if you have that turned on. So we got you updated with injuries, pretty much anything going on with the players. It's pretty awesome. Yeah,
we've been putting out a lot of push notifications, especially now. You know, we're going to date ourselves now, but the main one that went out today was Jordy Nelson.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's preseason, which is a really awesome time of the season. I have to say, this is the time that you study up and you do all your predictions for how you think the year is going to go. But it's also a time that a lot of injuries happen, and you need to know about that before you draft, because we had someone this weekend, I won't say who it is, but they didn't know about an injury, and we were nice enough to let her know.
We were. This only gets you so much. This gets you about 50% of the way. We're going to get you the other 50% of the way. So, should we get started with quarterbacks?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's get started with quarterbacks. All right. So, here we made our list of our top 10 fantasy quarterbacks. We're going to go over our top 5 and give you a few others. So, I might as well get started. My first one is Aaron Rodgers. I'm actually shocked that you have Andrew Luck, but it's a debate. It's a big debate if you want Andrew Luck or you want Aaron Rodgers. I'm going Aaron Rodgers. 4,381 yards last season, 38 touchdowns. That's 273 yards per game. Enormous numbers. It's Aaron Rodgers. He's a fucking stud. Now, unfortunately, he isn't going to have Jordy Nelson this season to throw to, so that's going to bring Randall Cobb into play. And we'll talk about that when we talk about wide receivers on our next episode. He only had 5 interceptions last season, and but he is going to have Devontae Adams, who's really been picking up the slack there. Do you have anything else about Aaron?
Yeah, absolutely. He's actually thrown for over 4,000 yards in 5 of the last 7 seasons. And, of course, he didn't throw that much in 2013 because he was hurt by our Bears. We broke his collarbone. So, but yes, and this is Devontae Adams' second year. So this is time. And because Nelson is hurt, like you just mentioned, it is time for him to step up and become that number 2 wide receiver. I think they are completely comfortable having Cobb be their number 1. And the good thing about them is they're going to be balanced because of Eddie Lacy.
Yes.
He might have to catch some more balls as well this season to make up for the slack that, with Nelson not being there. But, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty sure thing that these quarterbacks are going to go 1 and 2, just depending on your preference.
Now, why did you put Luck at 1?
I put Luck at 1 because of what he did last year. I mean, it was nuts. He almost doubled his passing touchdowns from 2013 to 2014. In 2013, he had 23 passing touchdowns, and last year he had 40. So that is insane. He is a young guy that is just absolutely ascending. And he only threw 7 more interceptions in 2014 than 2013. So not only is he throwing more touchdowns, but he's also not throwing a lot more interceptions. So, of course, that's the ratio you want to look at. Now, I really like that he, of course, has T.Y. Hilton, who just got paid. And then they brought over Andre Johnson. He has Colby Fleener, who he has great chemistry with because they were in college together. And Dwayne Allen said that he lost some weight for this season, so he should be running his routes faster. So there might be more balls going his way as well. He's just got a plethora of weapons to work with. And let's also mention, since they got veteran Frank Gore, the problem with the Colts has been they haven't had a good running game, so Andrew Luck has had to do everything. And as a defense, you can just, you can play for the passing game. Well, now they have Frank Gore. Defenses are going to have to pay attention to that run. That should open up things even more for Luck, which is pretty awesome. And then don't forget, they play Tennessee and Jacksonville twice a year.
There you go.
So neither of those defenses are going to be shut down defenses. So
no, they're not.
I just think he's poised for a monster season.
I definitely agree. He's the real deal. He's been since he was a rookie. He's the one quarterback that came out as a rookie and has just had stud seasons every season. Which, I mean, we don't know if that's going to happen to our Mariota, situation or our Heisman winner, this year. But we'll see. But I think it's doubtful. I
think Winston has a better shot at having a good season.
I agree. I definitely agree. But I don't think either of them are going to put up any kind of numbers like Luck did his first year. He also got plugged into a offense that was run formerly by Peyton Manning. And he was handed some good receivers, and he had it made. Let's move on to, speaking of Mannings, Peyton Manning. At the number 3 spot with a bullet. 4,727 yards, 39 touchdowns, 295 yards per game. Down in the touchdowns from the season before, of course, when he, lost his friggin' mind. But he's got some rust on the man. He's finally... getting up there. Strange report comes out today that the man can't feel his fingertips in his right hand. Yeah. And he's still been putting up these kind of numbers. But he's still been putting up these kind of numbers with that. But, so he has lots of weapons, He has Demaryius Thomas we're going to talk about in other reports. Emmanuel Sanders. Owen Daniels, of course. His check down guy at tight end. Caldwell can put up some numbers, but not a whole lot. He had 7 games last season over 300 yards, including 2 400-yard games against Arizona and New England. And those are damn good defenses. He put those numbers up. So I still think he has a lot in the tank. I know people will be shocked that I put him, at 3rd. You put him at 4th. But you still got to keep him high. This guy still is going to be cruising. Unfortunately, he's only going to take his team to a 10-win season and then shit the bed in the playoffs again. But sorry, Courtney out there, if you're watching, Mr. Broncos fan, he already said he's going to be depressed by this season because they're going to make the playoffs, but damn, they're not going to go that far.
Well, hey, the Bears might not even make the playoffs, so, be happy. But yeah, I did. I put him down 4th. You know, he's still in my top 5 because he is Peyton Manning. He's been a top fantasy quarterback for years, as we know. But the reason I put him down a little bit more is because now they're in Gary Kubiak's system. True. And Kubiak likes to run the ball more. So that's already been said, and that's pretty much known that they are going to run the ball a lot. So that's why I think he's just not going to have the opportunity to pass as much as he did in Adam Gase's system. Yep. Now, I do think the balanced attack will maybe help him overall just because of the age factor. That's another reason I moved him down, was because, let's face it, he's getting up there. It is getting tougher to play the game the older you get. But I do think having that balance will help him out with some accuracy and things like that. And 10 out of their 16 opponents didn't have defenses in the top 10 last season. So schedule-wise, he should still do pretty well for you because he's not playing extremely hard defenses for the most part.
I mean, I agree with the one thing you're saying. You have to have a good backup quarterback because, A, you never know if he's going to get injured, and B, he, at the end of last season, when you needed him in the fantasy playoffs, he kind of tapered off for a lot of people and pissed a lot of people off in their weeks, 15 and 16. Yeah. He did trail off.
He was playing, but he was playing injured, so.
Yeah. Why don't you tell us about Big Ben?
Yeah, so we swapped on this one. This is my 3rd year 4th. So Big Ben, I think, is going to have a really great season. That's why I put him 3rd. I think he's just getting so much more comfortable in Todd Haley's system. Last year was his 3rd year in the system. Obviously, those first couple years, they weren't really seeing eye to eye. Right. But now it's his 4th year in the system. And last year, let's face it, I think he just kind of gave in, and it worked for him. Yes. He balled out. Of course, he has Antonio Brown to work with, who is just a monster. They have a healthy Le'Veon Bell, so that helps out, of course. And Bryant is going into his 2nd year, Martavius Bryant, that is. So they're expecting some big things from him. And don't forget, they have Marcus Wheaton as well. So it's just the weapons that they have. Totally. He has so much to work with. And they have a veteran offensive line. They've played together a lot. So, hopefully that's kind of the thing with Big Ben. He can scramble very well. But if he has a line that's protecting him, he can really pick you apart. So with all those weapons and what Le'Veon Bell can do in the running game, again, that opens things up for him. And Le'Veon Bell catches plenty of passes himself. Yeah. So.
I agree. The Steelers are going to be a dangerous team this season if everybody stays healthy. That's the problem they end up always having is something happens to Ben or something happens to Le'Veon, and then they run into that situation.
Exactly. And their center, Pouncey, is out for a little while, that's right. So they are going to have to work with a new center, but I still think he's going to do great.
I think it's in week 2. You have 2 more weeks to break one in and get that timing down in camp for sure. He had 9 games last year over 300 yards, including one 435-yard game over the Saints in week 13. And then, of course, we can't forget the 2 glorious weeks, and I love this because I had him in one of my leagues, the mega 522-yard game that he had against the Colts. 6 touchdowns in week 8, and then he scored 6 more touchdowns the following week in week 9 against the Ravens. And we thought that was going to go on forever, and of course it didn't, but...
Two great weeks in
fantasy. Weeks. He Manninged people, man. 6 against 6. Yeah, there's some good weeks. So let's close it out with number 5. I put Tony Romo. Tony Romo is just a freaking stud when it comes to scoring, and he's just amazing, and he has all these weapons. Unfortunately, the running game is suspect this season, and Randall already is possibly injured and is looking sketchy. So, but Romo has just put up some phenomenal numbers the last 2 seasons. And also he has Des Bryant back. So when you have Des Bryant catching your balls, you're going to put up big time numbers. So you though put Matt Ryan at number 5.
I did put Matt Ryan. I do have Romo down, obviously as my 9th guy, and that is because I don't think they're going to be able to do near as much with the running game. And he's just that quarterback that when he has to do a lot more throwing, he tends to make mistakes. So I think if they have him passing too much, they might be in trouble, and we're just not sure what's going to go on with their running game. So I put Matt Ryan as 5th. I like the situation Matt Ryan is going into this year. First of all, he has Julio Jones back. So right there is a top reason that he's going to be better. And they did upgrade at tight end. They got Jacob Tamme. That was a big problem for them last year. You know, they had these like no-name tight ends.
Right.
So even though Tammy's not a beast, he's an upgrade. So that is one more weapon for Matt Ryan to have. And they've been actively trying to improve their offensive line as well. I think when he slumped those couple years, a lot of it was just because he had zero protection. And every quarterback needs a little bit of time. So they got a new right guard and left guard. And their left tackle, Jake Matthews, is in his 2nd year. And their right tackle, Ryan Schrader, is in his 3rd year. So that offensive line is something they've been working on. And hopefully that unit is coming together a little bit more. So I just think he is poised for a pretty big season. And the thing with Atlanta is they might not have a very good running game, so it really, a lot of these games might come down to Matt Ryan's arm. So he's going to get a lot of opportunities to be passing, and with some of the receivers he has, you know, he should be making those passes happen.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that is evenly matched between the two of them is in PPR leagues, they're unstoppable. That's where you're going to get your points. They're going to be teeing off on the passes like crazy because of the lack of running game that they have. I mean, they lost Jenilee Rodgers to us, the Bears. Yeah. He's going to be our 3rd down back. Go Rodgers. It's a good thing also I want to add, you brought up tight ends. Of course, Jason Witten is the factor, and it matters if he stays well or not. He's gotten injured a few times, and it's screwed up a few Dallas seasons. If Jason Witten stays well, you're going to get some good numbers out of Romo. I slapped Tom Brady down there. We all know about Deflategate. We talked about it on our Facebook page. And, of course, at first it looked like, you know, the Patriots did all this stuff wrong. And I'm the first one that loves to hate on Darth Vader. But the NFL, I think, botched a lot of the evidence, as we found out. And, unfortunately, have a little bit of egg on their face. So now the Players Union is up in arms. And, of course, they're probably going to cut, you and I agree, they're probably going to cut his 4-game suspension in half.
Yeah, I think so. I think he will only be suspended 2 games.
So that's actually why, with all of the investigation that's been going on, I slapped him in there. You know, take him as your backup. If it's, I mean, take him in the mid-rounds. It matters if you're in a 12, 14-person league. Pick him up. Coming in week 2, he's going to be pissed off. He's going to be ready to throw to Gronk, and then you're just going to start cleaning up.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all know Tom Brady is a top quarterback in the league. Yeah. So once he gets out there and he's playing, you know, all things should go well for
He would have been way further up if that whole business wouldn't have happened.
And the only reason I left him out of my top 10 was because of the suspension. Right. But I did throw Matthew Stafford in there. I like Stafford, you know, because I feel like they've kind of reined him in a little bit, so he's not so just openly chucking the ball down the field. And last year is the first time that they had 2 receivers that both had 1,000 yards. Megatron, of course, had over 1,000, and Golden Tate had over 1,000 for them. So they're still allowing him to throw the ball when needed. They just seem like they're a little bit more balanced. And he's a guy that, even though he might not, and the team did make the playoffs last year, even though he might not win a ton of playoff games for you necessarily, he puts up good fantasy numbers every year. So you cannot, he's just one of those guys you can't just forget about.
We always say the team doesn't need to go to the Super Bowl. They just need to get you to your fantasy bowl. Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to running backs. We're going to give you our top 5s, and I'm going to Jenilee, I'm going to let you start with AP over there.
Okay, I'm going to start with Adrian Peterson, and this is an interesting one because I've done some mock drafts, and I think he was taken first in one draft. He's not being taken first in a lot of drafts, but I don't know. You cannot ever count Adrian Peterson out. He is one of those guys that he just gets it done no matter what. he is rested after having all last season off. So he had no wear and tear on his body last year. And if we remember the year after he came off that knee surgery, he had over 2,000 yards.
Right.
So I may not be expecting him to go for 2,000, although he might, because he has that look in his eye like he's ready to go this year. But I am expecting him to get at the very least, 1,500 yards.
Yeah.
Also, head coach Zimmer has openly stated that he's going to get as much as he can take.
Oh, yeah.
So the Vikings always pound Adrian Peterson, and they always get him going. But it's one of those things that it's already been openly spoken that they are handing the ball off to him a ton like they normally do. And he's just the type of back that even if he's not having a good first 2 quarters, if he's going against a really good defense, he wears you down. And by the 3rd and 4th quarter, he is just running over you. So I just think he's a guy that now that he's back, his body has been rested, which I think makes him so much scarier in the sense that he is ready to go and just ready to eat up these defenses. So I had to put him first.
I agree with you in the fact that, he lost his mind after he came back the last time. I kept calling him the Bionic Man. It was as amazing as when Peyton Manning came back after his neck injury. He lost his crazy ass mind. So I also think he's going to have a chip on his shoulder and something to prove because the whole scandal business and all that, and anytime stuff like that happens, people come back a little angry. So he's going to be a little pissed off. The only reason I
5th. You didn't put him 2nd or 3rd, 5th.
I think he's going to have a little bit of rust. I do, and I also think with the whole scandal thing, it puts a lot of pressure on you to produce. And it's a different bunch of players. There's some different players. We'll see how he gels. I was just playing buyer beware with him and sticking him down there, and that's because I had to put my man Beast Mode at number 1.
He's partial to Beast Mode.
I am very partial to Beast Mode. It's a freaking stud. 1,306 yards last season, 13 touchdowns, 81 yards per game. Over the last 4 years, Lynch has averaged 295 carries per season. He fights. He makes something out of nothing. He always reminds me of Barry Sanders in the fact that there is no hole open, and this guy just, tears out, It's Skittles power. It's total Skittles power. I love the guy. He has his new 3-year, $13 million contract. He said on Conan's show that he was this close to retiring. I don't know what made him want to stay. Probably the fans. He's averaged 12 rushing touchdowns over the past 4 seasons, and he finished number 3 in fantasy points for running backs last year. So I shoved him up there. You have anything else to say about my man?
Yeah, we swapped our 1 and 5 places. I have it down 5th.
That's why I let you start. I know you're very fond of the AP, just like I'm very fond of the Beast.
And sometimes the running backs it's a hard position to grade, especially if you're in a PPR league versus a standard league. So a lot of times, because my leagues are pretty much all PPR leagues, I rate things along the PPR line. So some of these things will change if you're in a standard league. But yeah, he's definitely a top 5 running back. We know that. His numbers are crazy. We know the Seahawks love running the ball. And one thing I think that will help him, and he might move up to that, 3rd or 2nd spot, depending, is the fact that it's going to be harder to stack 8 in the box against him with Jimmy Graham out there.
Definitely.
And that could be super challenging for defenses, especially in the red zone, because we all know that usually Beast Mode gets the ball when it's time to get in the end zone. But now defenses, again, they can't stack 8 in the box because you have Jimmy Graham out there and you can't leave him on an island. So he really might, I think he will definitely beast out this year. So if you can get him, you're going to grab him.
He went first in the Big Balls draft.
He did.
Jason took him.
He did.
Anyway, tell us about Le'Veon.
Okay, so Le'Veon Bell, of course, I like, especially, again, if you're in a PPR league. He had his breakout season last year. He went for 1,361 rushing yards with 8 touchdowns, and he had 83 receptions for 854 yards. There's your PPR number right there, and 3 receiving touchdowns. He also has said that he feels like he's a lot quicker and more explosive than he was last year. So, you know, a player knows their own body. If he's seeing that on tape and he's feeling that, I like to hear that if I'm his fantasy owner.
Yep.
So I just think he's going to have another strong year. And again, if you're in a PPR league, he's going to beast out for you. I just think this offense, like we already talked about, is going to be absolutely dynamic. So
yeah, the Steelers are going to be just super scary. I'm down at number 6 because I hated to do this as a Bears fan, but I got Eddie Lacy up there. I mean,
the hate. I have Eddie Lacy way down here.
This is one I noticed when I looked at our list that we have differences, and the one factor that everybody needs to remember on this is, especially if you're working in a larger bunch of teams league, is last season everybody got screwed by their running backs in the first round for the most part because there were tons of injuries. Mm-hmm. By week 3 or 4, you had some teams decimated that looked like fantasy managers looked like they were geniuses, and then all of a sudden, whoops, you all of a sudden had no starting running back, and you're on the waiver wire looking for, you know, God knows who, some backup that was lucky if he was getting, you know, 5 snaps a game. So, I mean, the reason these are so flip-flopped is you can look at all the numbers all you want, but it's going to end up coming out in the wash if there's any injuries.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little about Eddie. 1,139 yards last season, 9 touchdowns, 71 yards per game. The only problem with him, the only thing you have to fear is what Prost always says, James Starks, the veteran, they always stick him in at the line. But where I think you're going to get him is out of the backfield with the pass and PPR. You're going to get him definitely getting you yards. So that's a huge deal. You also... all right, he's the same kind of runner as Lynch. He's an angry downhill runner. He's just going to throttle. Again, little bit beware. He's gotten injured, you know, quite a few times and screwed people. But I just think he's going to put up the yards this year. I think he's healthy, and I think he's just going to do great.
Yeah, and I mean, what running back doesn't get injured? You also have to look out for Kuhn. Sometimes they put their fullback in. Yeah. And he vultures Lacy too. So that's probably one reason I don't have Lacy as high. I'll move on. So my third guy is Jeremy Hill. This is a guy that a lot of people are talking about. Some people that maybe don't do as much research aren't talking about as much. So I have him very high, but I drafted him in our draft this weekend. And I actually got him as the 10th pick because I was the last one to draft in the first round. So he only started 8 games last year, and he went for 1,124 yards and 9 touchdowns. Starting 8 games, he lost his mind. Yeah. That's a 5.1 yard per carry average. If he can keep that up, his numbers are going to be incredible. He's going to be around 1,800 yards this year if he keeps that up.
Giovanni who?
Yeah, and they're really not going to use Gio very much. They're going to use him maybe in more of the passing downs. But it's going to be the Jeremy Hill show.
For sure.
And that's the thing. He is your main running back there. So they have just decided that this is what's going to go on. The Bengals are slowly but surely every year running the ball more. Yeah. I think they realize that they need to put the ball in the running back's hands a little bit more. I think that takes a lot of the pressure off of Dalton, and he tends to perform better that way. So I just think he's going to get a ton of carries. If he stays healthy for you, I wouldn't be surprised if he is a top 3 running back. His numbers show that by the end of the season. So I was incredibly happy to get him when I did.
Yeah. We have another flip-flop. I have Jamal Charles all the way up here, and you have him down at number 7. Our boards are flip-flop. I mean, Jamal Charles has always been a stud. You know, he's the bread and butter of the Chiefs team. Alex Smith sure as hell isn't. We know that. And the cavalcade of wide receivers they bring in, you know, Macklin, whoever the hell, you know, Alex Smith is throwing to this season. This guy is always super solid. Had 1,033 yards last season, 9 touchdowns, 68 yards per game. You know, it's the ground and pound. That's the way Reed does it. He averaged 5 yards per carry, which ranked him 4th overall last year. Even with hamstring, ankle, knee injuries that were pretty prevalent last season, He's been durable. He has started 15 games in 6 of the past 7 seasons. So even though he's injured, he plays injured, he sticks in there. He's no Arian Foster. Hello. Feel like playing any season? Jesus Christ. Notice he is nowhere to be found. He would have been if he wouldn't have gotten injured again. So why do you have him at 7?
I have him down a little bit lower. He is awesome in a PPR league. Of course, Alex Smith does pass to him a lot. But I just, just with the rankings this year, how they went, I just felt like there were stronger running backs to go above him. But again, he's a guy that if he's on the board, if you're in a 10-person, I mean, no matter how big your league is, pretty much, if he's on the board, you're going to take him in the top 7 picks.
Yeah.
So, and he's going to do a lot of good things for you. Also, I guess the injury bug scares me a little bit with him. Hasn't been a terrible problem. I had him when he lost his mind in 2013, and he was just amazing. So, I do like him for sure. I think we can now move on because we're matching on one.
Yes.
And hey, it's our own Bears player.
Homer. We got to go Homer. Tell us all about it.
All right, well,
awesome
Forte, let's just start with the fact that John Fox has openly said that we are going to be running the ball a lot. We're going to be running the ball more. And I can tell in Matt Forte's interviews, he is looking forward to this season, and he is so happy that they are going to be handing the ball off to him and getting the run going. It's a situation where John Fox understands that you cannot make Cutler throw 80% of the game and expect him not to make mistakes and win the game for you. So they're going to try to get the running game going. He's had over 1,000 yards in every season he's had except for 2. And why I say it like that is because for some reason he's such an underrated running back. People refuse to talk about Matt Forte, and he's a top running back every season in the league. It drives me nuts. He can do everything. He had over 100 catches last season, which I know he doesn't really want to be catching the ball that much.
Right.
But if you need him to catch the ball and get you those first downs, he can do it. He is a back that can do everything, and I'm so excited to see him in Fox's system, and I know he's looking forward to it. So he's going to be the guy out there in Bears land.
Unfortunately, the reason he's had to get all those catches is because we had a crappy O-line. So he'd get up there and there'd be no hole to run through. So the only way they'd get it to work is to run him on the outside and pass to him. It's finally Matt Forte's time to shine. The only thing I'm worried about, the only reason, and the reason he isn't higher on my list this season is unfortunately Fox, every team he has coached, he tends to start running a little bit of running back by committee. He did it when he was on the Panthers. He also did it in that situation, he actually did have an elite running back, and he still would run 2 or 3. He'd do a rotation, and he did the same thing, with the whole C.J. Anderson business, and the whole Monte Ball business, and Nosha Moreno business, and made fantasy owners pull their hair out of their head. You'd be like, which one is he going to run this week? Shit, why the hell does Monte Ball have the points this week? So I'm just a little worried. We've been seeing Langford, our running back, running a lot so far in preseason, and he's been doing well, which worries me a little bit about the Forte numbers because he's going to see another weapon and go, okay, we're going to pepper him in, and we're going to pepper Carey in, and just Fox. If Forte is doing it, I'm asking you right now, so I'm sure you definitely watch our show, right? Please keep Forte in as much as possible. I have him on my fantasy team so far, so.
Yeah, and, with that, it's just they have said that the running back competition this year for the Bears has been really incredible. Mm-hmm. So, we definitely might use some more backs, but I just think he'll get more opportunities, and was going to kind of go into this in the next show, but I'll just touch on it really fast. He definitely might get more opportunities because we are having wide receivers injured like crazy.
A little bit.
And the season hasn't even started. So we have the wide receiver injury bug already. So they are going to have to lean on Forte.
It's a really good thing we got rid of Brandon Marshall, guys, huh? I think we cursed ourselves with that one. But again, we'll get into that on our wide receiver show, which the next episode will be wide receivers, tight ends, and defenses. Sorry, we're not doing kickers. Pick one in the 14th round.
Pull them out of a hat.
16th round if you need to. we all know the rules. Indoor, crappier team that needs to kick field goals. You know all the rules. If you don't and you're a beginner, I just gave them to you. Alrighty, I think that wraps us up for our first drafting episode. Stay tuned for the next episode. And again, download our app. You're going to get all the updates, and we might just post a little bit extra stuff on there. You never know. All right?
Good night.
Good night.